Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roche Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. Just when you thought Indiana basketball had some good things breaking their way, they'd won 3 games in a row. It had just been announced that Mike Woodson was returning to Indiana basketball for next season. But now things are crumbling apart again for Indiana basketball because their only commit in the 2024 class has just decommitted from Indiana. And it's no ordinary decommit. It is 5-star small forward Liam McNeeley, a top 15 recruit and a guy that Indiana desperately needed. He is a shooter. He is a guy that would have helped alleviate a lot of issues that Indiana currently has on this roster, even though Mackenzie Mbako has been improving as of late and has helped out with Indiana's three-point shooting. Indiana has been a terrible three-point shooting team the last few seasons, but Liam McNeeley would have helped out in that regard big time, and it was a massive win for Indiana to land Liam McNeeley a few months ago when he had committed to Indiana over the Kansas Jayhawks and a few other schools. But it does look like Mike Woodson's recruiting momentum is coming to an end, because now that Liam McNeeley has just announced that he's decommitting from Indiana, the Hoosiers don't have anybody else. Like I said, that was their only commit for the 2024 class, and we're in March of 2024. It's not like there's still a year left for Indiana to try to get some more players. It's over with. Indiana's basically going to have to go all in on the transfer portal unless somehow they're able to get a late decommit, something that Mike Woodson has had success with in the past, landing Mackenzie Mbako after he decommitted from Duke, landing Tamar Bates after he decommitted from Texas, and even landing Malik Renew after he decommitted from Florida. But unless Mike Woodson's able to land a high-profile decommit like that in the coming weeks, Indiana is not going to have a high school player in the 2024 class, and having to go all in on the transfer portal usually is not a good idea. It's very good to always have a mix of young talent coming in and guys through the portal, plus returning players. But Indiana, we don't even know how many players are going to be back off this year's team, and Liam McNeeley was supposed to be the one certain that Indiana had coming into the roster next season. And the problem is for Indiana, as I believe what went wrong for this 2024 recruiting class is that Mike Woodson went all in on Derek Queen and he went all in on Boogie Flan, 2 guys that Indiana thought that they could build around with Liam McNeeley for a big 3-man class, having 3 top 20 players that were all 5-star recruits. Indiana's been trying to recruit kind of like Kentucky, with Mike Woodson being a former NBA coach. He's been trying to bring in guys that he can bring into the program, and then they can go off to the NBA and make Indiana look like a pipeline for the pros. And he's had some success with Jalen Hood-Schifino, and he looks like he's going to have success here with Khalil Ware and maybe even Mackenzie Mbako as well, even with Jackson Davis improving. Trace Jackson Davis got drafted, and he's doing very well in the NBA right now. But it doesn't look like recruits are seeing what Mike Woodson is envisioning. Obviously, Liam McNeeley sees an Indiana program that doesn't shoot the basketball well enough for his liking. And the fact that 2 of his high school comrades that he wanted to follow him to Indiana, especially Derek Queen, Liam McNeeley was pushing hard for Derek Queen to commit to Indiana, and it looked like Indiana was going to land Derek Queen. I thought that Indiana had him, but he ended up deciding to commit to Maryland a couple weeks ago, and maybe that was the final blow for Liam McNeeley deciding not to go to Indiana. Plus, with the three-point shooting, Indiana's three-point shooting just isn't good enough, and I've talked about it a million times with Mike Woodson. He doesn't give guys enough open shots to really justify a pure shooter like Liam McNeeley going to the program. He can go to another program, and they're going to help set him up for threes at a higher rate, and they're also going to win at a higher rate as well. And Indiana is probably not going to be winning a lot of games next season if they keep Mike Woodson, if things do not improve soon when it comes to recruiting. Mike Woodson had just been announced that he was coming back, and that's the thing that makes this so tough for Indiana, is because it looked like they were having a little bit of momentum. And now losing Liam McNeeley, it just crumbles it all apart, and now Mike Woodson's hot seat is hotter than it was ever before again. The fan base is very frustrated. Like this headline from the Indianapolis Star says, Mike Woodson's job was hard enough. Losing his only 2024 recruit makes it nearly impossible. He went from having possibly 3 of the top 20 players committing to Indiana basketball to play next season to now he's got absolutely no recruits in the 2024 class. And Joe Tipton tweeted it out earlier. He said 5-star Liam McNeeley's decommitted from Indiana. The 6'7" small forward is requested to be released from his national letter of intent and will reopen his recruitment. And according to the reports that are being circulated with Liam McNeeley, it's possible that he is going to end up going to the Kansas Jayhawks, where he was originally accidentally down to Indiana and Kansas before he ended up committing to Indiana. Maybe he's now going to end up going to the Kansas Jayhawks, and that would make a lot of sense. Kansas gets a lot more open shots for their guys than Indiana does. But with Liam McNeeley, he would have been the guy next season for Indiana. If you have Khalil Ware going off to the NBA, maybe Mackenzie Mbako leaves as well, then Liam McNeeley would have been probably the headline player for Indiana next season, unless they got a high-profile transfer portal guard that maybe outshined him a little bit. But Liam McNeeley was going to get a lot of playing time at Indiana. If Mike Woodson did a little bit better of a job getting his players open, then I think Liam McNeeley could have had a lot of success in Indiana. But now that's not going to happen. He's deciding to leave, and this is just at an absolute terrible time for Indiana because of the fact that I don't think Indiana was expecting this. They even tweeted out yesterday showing that Liam McNeeley was a third-team high school All-American. So why would Indiana tweet this out showing that Liam McNeeley just got a prestigious honor in high school and that he's still going to be going to Indiana if the very next day he decides to decommit from the program? So I think this came out of left field, and I don't know if Mike Woodson being announced that he is coming back to Indiana had anything to do with it, because I've even seen some people say Liam McNeeley's decommitting from Indiana because Mike Woods is returning. Mike Woods is the one that recruited Liam McNeeley. That doesn't make any sense. And Mike Woodson had built that pipeline from Montverde with Malik Renew and Jalen Hood-Schifino. Liam McNeeley was supposed to be another guy following in the footsteps of the previous players that have come from Montverde to Indiana, and then Derek Queen possibly as well. But again, it's just not happening for Mike Woodson. Whatever the main reason may be, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, Liam McNeeley decommitting from Indiana, it just hurts Mike Woodson, and it's very hard envisioning him being able to turn this around. I asked on Twitter, are you surprised Liam McNeeley decommitted from Indiana? 68% of people said no. 32% of people said yes. And I understand that to an extent because of the fact, I guess, with Indiana struggling, Indiana fans are probably like, yeah, I would decommit too. It makes absolutely no sense why Liam McNeeley would want to play for Indiana. But it's just at such a weird time for him to do it because Indiana was starting to play better. This is the best looking offense that Mike Woodson has had all season long, with Xavier Johnson back, Khalil Ware getting it going, Mackenzie Mbako's getting it going, Trey Galloway is assisting the ball very well. It just looked like Indiana was turning a corner, and now Liam McNeeley decommitting, all of that is gone for Indiana. The fan base is starting to turn yet again on Mike Woodson, and even though Mike Woodson was just announced that he's coming back for Indiana, that was a report. Maybe Mike Woodson's job is not safe. Maybe there's a chance he still ends up getting fired after this season because of the fact he has no recruits in the 2024 class. But I will say, Quinn Buckner is on staff at Indiana University. He was a former player, and he's a big reason why Mike Woodson was hired as the Indiana head coach. He was also a big reason why Archie Miller was hired. So it's going to be interesting between Scott Dolson, the athletic director, and Quinn Buckner as well, who's on staff, whether Mike Woodson ends up getting the boot or whether Mike Woodson does end up getting another year. I do believe he's going to get another year because of the report and Quinn Buckner's influence on Indiana athletics. But still, Mike Woodson is in big trouble because you cannot be in March of 2024 and not have a 2024 commit in the high school recruiting class. He's going to have to go all in on the portal. And we've seen with programs like Arkansas that have gone all in on the portal, it sometimes just does not work out. It's too much talent and players that have never played together trying to mesh together. It usually does not work. So Indiana is in bad shape right now. Maybe they can finish their season strong, and we'll see what Mike Woodson can do in the transfer portal. Maybe he can get a high school decommit or two. But I do believe that Liam McNeeley decommitting from Indiana, if Mike Woodson ends up getting fired in the next year or so, this might have been the final nail in the coffin of anything positive happening for Mike Woodson and his Indiana tenure, because McNeeley would have really helped a lot of the problems that Indiana has had on their roster the last few seasons, and now he's deciding that Indiana is not where he wants to be. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about Liam McNeeley decommitting from the Indiana Hoosiers, and whether you are surprised or not that he did decommit from Indiana, and the weird timing that it was, especially with Mike Woodson having Indiana with a 3-game win streak, and that it was reportedly announced that he's returning for another season as the Indiana head coach, and whether you think Indiana has any shot to turn this thing around with Mike Woodson as head coach. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.